I know. For wear and tear. Okay, so what we're learning today is about negative numbers multiplied. Okay, so for example, check this out. If I had negative 3 times negative 4 times positive 5 times negative 1, we should be able to look at this and instantly know if our answer is going to be positive or negative. Okay? And the way I want you to see, first of all, so let's leave this one up here for just a minute, and I'll show you why it's going to be easy for us to tell if it's going to be a negative answer or a positive answer. Okay? So, let's take just negative 1. Okay? Times negative 1. What have I told you about two that are the same? What's the answer going to be? Positive. So we would get a positive 1 answer, right? Okay, now let's do negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Okay, so let's do these first two. We know that negative 1 times negative 1 makes a positive 1. And then we bring down the negative 1. And so what would my answer be here? It would be a negative 1. So we see that 3 negatives made a negative 1. Let's keep going. I want y'all to see a pattern that I'm showing you. This time I'm doing 4 of them. Okay? So let's take negative 1 times negative 1. 2 that are the same would give us what? A positive 1 answer, right? So positive 1. Okay, I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay? So now I have positive 1 times negative 1. What would my answer be? Negative 1. Okay, for that answer, and then I have to bring down my negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 will become, okay, so our answer would be positive 1. I'm going to erase the rest of that. Okay, so what I want you to see is that when I had 2 negatives, I had a positive. I had 3 negatives, I get a negative. I have 4 negatives, I get a positive. Okay, guess what would happen if I had 5 of these? I'm just going to tell you the answer instead of us working it out. It's going to be a negative 1. Does anybody see the pattern?
Even numbers are positive.
You've got it. Good job. Way to figure it out. Okay, so as you can see, if I have 2, 2 is an even number, then the answer is going to be positive. If I have 3 negatives, 3 is an odd number, and so it's going to be negative. Does everybody see the pattern and how that works? Okay, so I have 4 negatives. 4 is an even number, so this answer is going to be positive. And then down here we have 5 negatives, so that's an odd number of negatives, and so the answer is going to be negative. Got it? Okay, so the thing you need to write down is that an odd number of negatives, the answer will be, negative. An even number of negatives, the answer will be positive. Okay? Write that down. So let's go back up to the problem above. And as you can see, I have a negative, and a negative. Now this positive we don't even consider in the equation because when you're looking at multiplying signed numbers, don't even pay attention to this one because this is what's going to determine our sign. Okay? So how many does it have? 1, 2, 3. So my answer is going to be negative. Because 3 is an odd number of negatives, and so therefore our answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to put a negative equals negative something. And now we just work the numbers. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. 60 times 1 is 60. My answer is negative 60. Everybody see how that's done? Does it make sense to you?
Wait, don't do that one down there.
Too late.
Almost too late.
What was the first part of that one?
Even numbers, like if there's an even number of negative numbers, then it will be positive.
So how would we write that?
I put, just like this says, I would put, instead of odd number of negative answers, I would put even number of negative answers will be positive. So you make it the opposite to it.
Even numbers of negative?
Even
of a negative number.
Even number of negative, comma, negatives. If there's an odd number of negatives, then your answer is going to be negative. If there's an even number of negatives, comma, the answer will be positive. Okay, now, if I have, let's just pretend I had the same problem up here. I think that was a positive 5, wasn't it? Negative 1. What if I had a 0 in here?
The answer will be automatically 0.
Good job. You are on it. Way to go. Thank you. You answered the last one. The answer is automatically going to be 0. Because anything times 0 is 0. So you don't even have to work it, honestly. Just put a 0. It has no sign. Okay? Now, y'all do this one on your own. And tell me what your answer is. When you see the numbers next to each other and they're in parentheses, hopefully y'all know that that means to multiply. Does everybody know that that means multiply, 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 multiply? Okay. All right, everybody work that and let's see what we get. The first thing I would do is come up with your answer. Is it going to be a negative answer or a positive answer? And then I would just multiply your numbers.
I got that.
You got it? Got it. Yes. Nope. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I see what you're doing. Good job. You should have gotten negative 360. Okay, now, the easiest way to do this problem is to, first off, count how many negative numbers you've got, right? And we have three negative numbers, and because 3 is an odd number of negatives, what's my answer going to be?
Negative.
My answer already, we know, is going to be a negative answer, okay? And then I wouldn't even worry about the signs. I would just multiply your numbers, okay? So 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. 60 times 2 is 120. 120 times 3 is 360. So our final answer would be negative 360. Now, I saw one of y'all working the problem like this. Whoops. I saw one of y'all working the problem like this, getting your answer and then moving everything else down, then getting that answer and then moving everything else down and doing it like that. You can continue doing it like that and work it. It's just easier just to look at it and go, okay, I have 1, 2, 3 negatives. 3 is an odd number. Odd means the answer is going to be negative. And then get rid of those and just work with the numbers from there. That's the easiest way, okay? But if your brain works better doing it all the way out, that's fine as well, okay? I'm just showing you the easiest way. All right, what if you see this? What does this actually mean? It's going to be negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. which
It's gonna be an even number.
4 is an even number, and if you need to write it out so that you can count them, that's fine, but it's right here, okay? And so if I have 4 negative numbers, my answer is going to be,
Positive.
why is it going to be positive? Because 4 is even, right? So my answer is going to be positive. I'm going to want to write that in, and then I just multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16. Answer is positive 16. All right, what if I had a 5 right there?
It would be negative.
I know that my answer is going to be a negative answer. Why? Because I'm going to have 5 negatives. And like I said, if you want to write those out so you can see them, that's fine. And then, so I know my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to go in and put that in there. Now I'll just multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32, right? That's my final answer. Does everybody understand it? Okay, now they're going to totally switch gears. Hey, babe. Just a minute.
Video, sorry.
Yeah. What's that? All right, what else?
Hi, kids.
Hi. Okay, so the next
He
thing.
looks like Eli.
He looks like Eli, yeah, and Isaac.
I know,
I'm
I
like,
was
where
gonna
was
say
I?
Isaac.
And then I don't know. Okay, so this next thing we're going to do is called dividing terms. Now, before we get into that, this is not a totally different lesson. It is a totally different lesson, but it's within this lesson, okay?
I hate when they do that.
I know, right? Okay, so let's review this real quick before we move on to what I want to show you next. Okay, what does the parentheses indicate?
Multiplication.
That we're going to multiply. Okay, now, does everybody remember that this multiplies with this? Okay, so what I want you to see is that I'm going to expand everything. So watch what I do. I have a 4a times a, because a squared is a times a, okay, and b. And then my AB is just as it is because it can't expand anymore. Okay? Now, we would normally break down the 4 into factors, prime factors, which would be 2 times 2. But there's really no need to right now. So if you're multiplying, you actually don't have to break down the number, but when we're dividing, we do. So just stay with me. So how many A's do I have? Okay? So would it be fair to say A to the 3rd power? And then B times B would become B squared. So this is my final answer. And you could put a 1 here if that helps you. 4 times 1 is 4. A times A times A is A3. B times B is B squared. Got it? Okay, so pretty simple, okay? But now what they're wanting to teach you is how to divide terms. So watch this. 4A squared B squared divided by AB. Okay, your very first step that I want you to take is to expand by breaking it down. Breaking it down. Okay, and the it is the numbers and the letters. Okay? So, let's start with the numbers. How could I break down 4? You're going to break it down into prime factors. 4 would become 2 times 2, right? Okay? A would become A times A. B would become B times B. If you want to put a divide or a multiply in all those, that's fine. Those dots are multiplying. This all is together multiplied, okay? Over AB. And because we are dividing, just like if I had 4 out of 4, we could cross it out and have 1. It's the same principle. The A and the A cross out. The B and the B cross out. So what do I have left? 2 times 2 is 4. A B. And that is my answer. Because everything else crossed out.
What are like all the steps to write down?
This,
Yeah, like what would
expanding,
the other ones
expanding it. What do you mean?
be? Like what would the other steps be if we worded it?
Do we?
that?
Okay, sorry, start again.
Like to write it down, what would the other steps be?
On this one, so step number 2, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Step number 2, so after we expand it, is to cross out like terms that are on top and bottom. Got it? Okay, so let's do another one that I think will make even more sense to you because it has something on the top and bottom. So everybody got that one done in this one? Okay, so stay with me. I have 12x cubed, y, and then a z, and I'm going to put a line in that z so we don't think it's a 2, squared, over 3x cubed y, I think, yeah, oh, x squared. Okay, so your first step is to expand everything by breaking them down, the numbers and the letters. How can we break down 12 the best? Well, here's 12. Let's break it down. We would say 4 times 3, right? We keep our 3, and then 4 is going to be 2 times 2, right? So I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 3. Does everybody understand that 2 times 2 times 3 is the same thing as 12? Okay, now I'm going to go x, x, x for my 3 x's. I'm going to put 1 y because there's only 1. And then I'm going to put 2 z's because there's 2 z's. Okay, then let's expand on the bottom. 3 doesn't have to be expanded anymore because 3 is a prime number. X, x, y. Has everybody got this part set up just like this? Okay, now we just cross out the terms. So 3 and 3, cross out 1x with another x with another x on the bottom, and then a y with a y. Does everybody see how we did that? Now, all we do is finish the problem off. So basically everything that's been crossed out needs to be erased. Okay? So I would be left with 2 times 2, which you can go in and say is 4 now. I still have an x left, and then 2 z's. So I'm going to leave my z and then make it squared. So after you're done crossing out the like terms, I would then bring everything back together. So after you expanded it, crossed everything out, what's the opposite of expand? Contrast? I don't know what you would call that, but we would bring these 2 z's that are expanded right now, and we bring them back together into z squared. Okay, and then on the bottom would be nothing, and so there's nothing. So your final answer would be 4x z squared. Got it?
Yep.
Make sense?
Hooray.
Sorta. All right, one more. Make sure you're getting it. I'll let y'all do this one by yourself, and then I'll go over it. Okay? 10. Now, it doesn't matter if they're using X and Z's or A's and B's. It doesn't matter, okay? 10A3 BC squared over 8AB squared C. All right, work it. Work the top by following those 3 steps, and then work the bottom. Break apart your numbers first, and then break down your letters.
extended. Is that what you want to say?
You will eventually, after you extend it, bring everything back together after you've crossed everything out.
Oh.
You can't really simplify it, can you?
It simplifies, but it only simplifies to a level,
Good.
to a certain spot. Okay, so I'm going to work it, all right? So 10 would change to what? 5 times 2, right? Or 2 times 5. A cubed would become what? 3 A's. Very good. B would stay as B, and C, you would have 2 of those, right? We've expanded the top, now let's expand the bottom. 8 will become
2 times 2 times
2 times 2 times 2. 1 A, 2 B's, and a C. Did everybody get that step? Okay, now let's cross out. 2 and 2. A. Are there any more A's? No. B. Are there any more B's? Yes. C and a C. Okay? So basically everything that's crossed out can be erased. So I'm just going to bring everything else down. 5. How many A's do I still have left? 2. So A squared. Bring it all together. Any more B's left on top? Any more C's left? 1. Over. We can go in and bring this together. 2 times 2 is 4. Any more A's? No. Any more B's? Yes. B. That would be your final answer. Got it? Does it make sense? Okay. That is lesson 103.